and welcome back to Football Made Simple. The final act of a historic Champions League took center stage as two powerhouses in Bayern Munich and Paris Saint-Germain faced off for the Champions League in Lisbon. Two great teams, led by two great managers in Hansi Flick and Thomas Tuchel, pit their wits against each other, and in the end, the match ended 1-0 to Bayern Munich thanks to a goal by PSG Academy product Kingsley Coman. The XG indicated that PSG in the end were wasteful with their chances, 1.05, compared to Bayern's 1.26. But what tactics did both managers use? In this video we take a look. A quick reminder of the formations used by both sides, as seen on the OneFootball app. OneFootball will get you match updates, formation updates, as well as player and team stats, and so much more. And the best part is, you can get it absolutely free through the sponsored link in the description below. And a big thanks to my Patreons for backing Football Made Simple on Patreon. If you want to help support the channel and get early access to videos like why Messi is a tactical problem for Barcelona, Heinkes's 12-13 tactics, and a look back at Bayern's 4-0 win over Barca in 2013, as well as an exclusive video tomorrow where we'll assess what both managers could have done differently in this final, head on over to patreon.com/footballmadesimple. And if you're unable to support at the moment, that's perfectly okay. A like and a share would go a long way. Now, let's get into it. We'll start by looking at how PSG looked to play when they were in possession. When PSG looked to build up from deeper areas, they struggled at times. They would drop their centre-backs into the box from the goal kick, and from here, Bayern used different pressing mechanisms. Bayern would look to position their wingers higher outside the box, and they would be ready to spring into the box once the ball was active. Importantly, unlike Neuer, Navas isn't the best with the ball at his feet, and as a result, he couldn't function effectively as an outfielder to give them the numerical advantage here. Bernat and Kehrer would push high and wide to be outlet options, and if Marquinhos functioned as a single pivot, Lewandowski would drop onto him and Müller would act as the free midfielder. So with the ball being filtered to one side, Müller would be able to quickly apply the pressure before they could advance higher up the pitch. As a result, as the match went on, PSG began to go longer from goal kicks. In open play, from the deeper regions, PSG tried to counter this by shifting into a double pivot with Marquinhos and Paredes early on, and Herrera pushed higher. But Bayern would shift their shape, with Müller looking to take up the second man so that they were pressing with the front four. While this still meant that the fullbacks could receive the ball as the outlet, when they did get the ball, they didn't really have an option for central progression due to this shape. And additionally, now one of Bayern's actual central midfielders could then move wide to cover the fullback if the winger couldn't get back in time. We see that PSG couldn't use the center of the pitch often, with 26% of the play here. In addition, it meant that they struggled to build up through the pitch, with a large percentage of the game being played in their defensive half. It also meant that they were susceptible to turnovers, as shown by them losing the ball in their own half much more often than Bayern did. This led to some dangerous situations for Bayern. A lot of PSG's promising situations came during transitional moments of the game. This was often on the few occasions where a midfielder or Neymar were found between the lines through a throw or a line-breaking pass. The most common occurrence would then be to look for the play over the high line to Mbappe, as Bayern's line had been drawn higher and he had the pace to beat Kimmich, which we saw on a few occasions and we'll look at more later on in the video. When PSG went behind and time was running out, they began to lose their structure at times. Due to the lack of central progression, Neymar couldn't get on the ball as much as he liked high up in these zones. So he began to drop deeper and deeper, with Mbappe and soon Choupo-Moting moving central to try and pick up the ball. But crucially, because Bayern was so dangerous in the press, Bernat couldn't push high up to provide the width, so Bayern could be even more aggressive in the press on the right, and as a result, Neymar was often dispossessed on this left-hand side, as the map shows. But how about the champions of Europe? What did they look to do in possession? Bayern of course liked to play out, and on the rare occasions where PSG pressed higher with the front three, the fullbacks were easy play-out options. And when the ball did go out wide, the PSG's central midfielder would then look to move wide to press. One way Bayern could look to counter this was by having Müller, their free man, move wide as well in these initial phases, so that PSG's wide midfielder would be reluctant to press, as if they did, if they were bypassed, Bayern would now have a 2 versus 1. But Bayern could also use this pressing mechanism to their advantage. With the ball in wide regions, especially on the right, it often drew PSG's midfield across the pitch as they tried to compact the space. This meant that, especially if it was the front man who was slow to track back, the switch to Davis was on time and again, with Coleman pushing Kehrer deeper and narrower. He would then be able to advance higher up the pitch and look to get the ball into the box, which happened on a few occasions. But as the match went on, PSG adopted a more defensive approach than Bayern, and instead allowed the Bayern backline to receive the ball with their wingers deeper, and they formed a 4-5-1 mid-block. In this phase, Bayern often formed a double pivot behind Neymar to give themselves options, and Müller pushed high, barely being involved in the build-up play. But this was part of what made it so difficult for PSG's midfield to try and press in response. Because PSG pushed their wingers deep and there was less threat of a counter here, Bayern could push one or both of the full-backs higher. This then allowed Coman and Gnabry central in this phase, so PSG's midfield now had to check behind them. And if they stayed deep, Thiago and Goretzka would have too much time on the ball. But if they pushed high, it freed up space for one of these men to receive the ball and cause the damage. But we did see this backfire on Bayern at one point, with the central winger being dispossessed and Mbappe now having the space to run in behind Kimmich. And generally, transitions like this led to the biggest chances for PSG. But higher up the pitch, Thiago and his switches were key to the team, particularly to the right-hand side. Kimmich and Gnabry would push higher, either both of them wide, although later in the match Kimmich began to move infield when PSG were attacking and leaving their wingers higher. It gave Bayern an extra midfield number as well as facilitating the 1 versus 1 out wide. And as discussed in our pre-match preview, Bayern, when they had the ball, would look to overload the box, with the narrow front three, Müller and Goretzka being the extra man. This would mean that the PSG centre-backs couldn't cover everyone. And we see shades of this in the only goal. Too many men means that Kehrer is outnumbered at the back post, and there's not much he can do, as he has to keep an eye on the man in front of him, as well as behind him. Overall, PSG will regret missing their big chances, although Neuer did incredibly well to save some of these opportunities. The trophy returns to Munich with Bayern, who, most would agree, have been the best team in Europe since Flick came in. But what did you make of the match? And comment down below what you think each manager could have done differently for our Patreon exclusive video coming soon. And I'd like to give a special shout out to my Patreons for the support, including Dennis Giannakaris, Omri Ezioni, Ali Traore, Fabian Vanham, Yijiang Wang, Soccer Down Here, and Zany Zane. But that's all for today, and remember, keep it simple.